when you're standing up here in front of an audience. Beyond what you say and how you say it, what do you actually do with your body? Let's kind of cruise through this part. Personal appearance, movement, gestures, and eye contact. Okay, personal appearance, we've talked about already just a little bit on the first day of class. Personal appearance is important, isn't it? It's not only important about what your audience thinks about you, but it's important how you feel about yourself when you're speaking in front of an audience. It's one less thing to worry about. If you feel like, okay, I look professional, I look good today, I'm not self-conscious about it today. So, it's important. But for your audience, it's important to know who is my audience, what would appeal to them, what would build my credibility to this audience, and what is just professional looking. Do I look like I just got out of bed in sweatpants and my hair is all matted? Or have I at least put on some nice clothes and comb my hair? That's the first step, isn't it? I would even say brushing your teeth is important because they can't smell your I would still brush your teeth. Okay, let's look at movement and gesturing. Should a person stand in one place and hold still the whole time?
No.
Why not?
Boring.
It's boring? Okay. I agree.
You can be more focused on them, see what they're doing.
I think there are, this changes. We talked the other day about audience analysis and the age of an audience. I think there are some ages of audience who would probably prefer somebody to stand right here. Think about senior citizens. Most people today, they expect change, things to be happening. And that's a generational thing that has been going and changing, becoming more and more rapid. So you have to keep that in mind. Your audience is used to that now, especially younger audiences. So you have to be aware that they want things to be active. That doesn't mean we pace back and forth, right? Because this becomes a nervous habit. It becomes a distraction, right? Movement is good, but this is real important for you to know. Movement must always be purposeful. Purposeful. Movement with purpose. So I want you all to stand up. Kind of put your desk back there, Smiley. And just kind of stand here in the middle of your aisle, face the front. There are certain ways we can move, different methods of movement and public speaking. If we're doing a speech like you'll be doing later in the semester, let's say an informative speech with 2 main points. You have an introduction, 2 main points, and a conclusion. There are some ways you can move that help your audience keep track of where you are in the speech. One is what we call the triangle method. You don't have to do this, but this definitely is an effective way. You might start your speech here and say blah blah introduction, and then as you move to your first point, so move with me kind of as a triangle. I guess you all move this way. I'm not an aerobics teacher. Kind of move at a 45-degree angle. You would say first of all, and you would speak to this part of the audience predominantly. Make eye contact over here. You still look over here. I haven't forgotten everybody here. That will make you feel neglected, but I look over here mostly. And you're still doing hand gesturings and focusing here. Then I would say, well, second of all, transition with my voice. I would move straight across. We can all do triangle. Now, I would then do what?
Go back to the
Focus more over here, right? And look around still, but focus here. But I stay in one spot. I can maybe move around a little bit here. And then in conclusion, I do this moonwalk. I back up to where I started. In conclusion, right here. So I've done some things for my audience. I've said verbally I'm changing places. I've moved physically. And later on we'll look at how we can even count for our audience. Now, what I want you to do is notice what you're doing with your hands right now. Where are your hands?
on my side.
Okay. Put your hands down at your side. Does this feel weird?
Yeah.
You feel like you look funny?
Yeah.
What's important to know that you don't look funny. That's the important thing to know. You don't look funny. We feel so vulnerable, right? When our hands are down at our side, we feel so vulnerable, so open. We have a tendency to want to do anything like this, or even with our feet, to do this. Yeah. Probably more common for girls, just kind of crush your feet over. Why do we do anything? Why is there a tendency to do that? Why can't we just keep our hands down at our side? Why would you do anything like this? If you feel vulnerable here, what does this do?
More comfortable.
Makes you feel safe. Yeah, comfortable. There's now a barrier between you and me. It's important to keep in mind in conversation with people. Anytime you do this, any type of barrier between you and that person, it can mean certain things. It can communicate. Yeah, I'm not sure what that means. But if I'm having a conversation here, and I start going like this, with my hands, what does that communicate?
That you were being like real defensive, and I always do that. People are like, why are you holding your arms in? Like, that's just how I
Just comfortable. Yeah. Well, it is comfortable. And it's comfortable for me too. Just to stand like this, it kind of helps your back relax a little bit.
Oh, I say, are you mad?
Yeah. Are you upset? Closing yourself off, right?
Like real defensive,
But if you have your hands out of your pocket, and if I were telling you a story about a fishing story, I said, man, I was fishing the other day, and I caught a huge fish. You should have seen it. It was huge. And then I go on. What have I not done that would be very helpful? Yeah, exactly. Because like the dog the other day, you might all be seeing different fish. Some of you might think a big fish is about that big. Some of you might think a big fish is about, 50-pound fish. Huge. So my responsibility is it was a huge fish. It was this big. Doesn't that help in your mind? Paint the picture? When your hands are out of your pockets, they're at your side, it allows you to be able to have them to freely express to people certain things. Paint the picture for them. Use gestures. So you all got to see. Sometimes we use gestures that make sense, and sometimes we don't. But it's important to be a little animated with your audience sometimes. But it helps sometimes if it is with purpose, right? It has to be with purpose. So keep that in mind. So movement must be with purpose. So we have our hand gesturing, we have our foot movement with purpose, and our body movement. Some people you'll notice when they do speeches, they go back and forth. You shift your weight from one side to the other. And it's a slow pace from one side to the next. But at the school I used to teach, you could do a videotape with students and they'd get their tape and they could watch it and analyze and all that kind of stuff. But what's funny then is to take those home, hit fast forward. All of a sudden it's like you're doing this, it becomes a distraction. Much like if you have something you do by habit that is maybe pushing the hair out of your face, rubbing your nose. These become nervous habits that when you don't do much at your desk, but in front of an audience, it's just much more comfortable to lift that hand and do this. You don't realize that you're doing it every 6 seconds.
I've seen it in the church park.
Yeah? Yeah? Afraid you got a booger in there? That'd be a bad place to have a booger. Yeah. Yeah. It becomes a habit. It's kind of like the filler we were talking about. You may not realize you're doing it at times. But not to make you self-conscious here, but if you watch that choir video, you're probably the one in there going, rubbing your nose all the time. Okay, let's look at this last one here. Eye contact. Is eye contact important? Yeah, it's important in everyday life, but especially in public speaking. Even though you're talking to a lot of people, eye contact is very important. It keeps your audience engaged with what you're saying. You don't want to lose track of your audience. You're always going to get their attention right at the beginning and then keep track of it. I had to pay attention. If you want your audience to do that, move around, make eye contact with them. Because if I'm moving around and you think I'm going to look at you every once in a while, are you less likely to do something else in class? Or less likely to be studying for something else or doing something else totally unrelated because you think, he will look at me eventually, right? So I don't want to be disrespectful. So eye contact is very powerful. Now, I sometimes think that looking at the back of the room is good enough. Can you tell I'm looking at the back of the room? The wall? Okay. What's that? So, it's not necessarily a bad thing. If making eye contact with your audience scares you to death, that's okay. That's really okay. No, you're not alone there. That's one of the most difficult things about public speaking is looking at your audience. That can be so hard. But a step in the right direction can be looking at the back wall. And that's the best you can do in this first speech. That's what I want you to do. If you can make eye contact with your audience, I challenge you to do that. But if you think the best you can do is look at the back of the wall, then please do that. And then as you go through the semester, try to move that into looking at people individually. It's a step process.